Right, so we should be ready to go.
Okay, I'll begin. Yeah, thanks, Linda. First of all, I'd just like to go through some housekeeping with everyone, please. This is a public meeting and it's being live streamed via the council YouTube channel. If you could please all bear that in mind. General etiquette is to please keep your microphones muted and to avoid background noise, and then unmute when you're invited to speak. And if members could please raise their hand or put their finger up in front of the screen, as I normally say, to indicate when they want to speak, that'd be very helpful. And Linda will keep an eye out for that and will then feed that back to me on the chat box. Chairing this an ONS meeting, as you know, is not easy, but if I do miss any, then Linda will verbally remind me if I'm missing somebody on the chat box that she feeds through to me. And with that, I'll move on. First item is declaration of interests, and also we'll do a roll call. And if we on the roll call, if we could also declare then if you've got any declaration of interest at the same time, that'd be very helpful. So could you please conduct that for me, James?
I will do, yes. Councillor Adams.
Present and no declarations of interest.
Councillor Beadle.
Present, and just to declare again that I'm a director of a company who's in receipt of grants processed by the District Council.
You're with me? So are you a director? Could you give me that again, please?
I'm a director of a company who's in receipt of grants processed by the District Council.
Councillor Brennan.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Bullman.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Catchpole.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Hartley.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Kelly.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor King.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Lawrence.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Nurden.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Prutton.
Present, no declarations of interest.
Councillor Riley.
Present and no declaration of interest. Thank you, James.
And Councillor Shaw.
No declarations of interest.
Thank you.
Okay, James.
Oh, I better check some of the other members who are here who might have declarations of interest.
Thank you, James.
Councillor Copplestone.
Present, I'd like to declare that I'm in receipt of the business support grant. Thank you.
Right. And Councillor Mancini Boyle.
Present, no declarations, thank you.
Okay. And Councillor Leggett.
Present and no declaration.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, James. Move on to apologies. Have we got apologies, James? And substitutes?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Murrell and we have apologies from Councillor Holland, and her substitute is Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you. Do you have a substitute for Councillor Morrell?
No, we don't.
Okie dokie. Right,
Also, Councillor Murrell, Chairman, has got a board meeting this morning.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tony. James. Next item is item 3, minutes, and these are the minutes that was held on the 14th. However, we will not be taking the pink papers on that, the exempt minutes, until later in the meeting, when we will exclude the press and public, and we'll be holding 2 items from the cabinet agenda on exempt matters. So I take that part of the minute during that exempt matters. It's efficient to do it that way. Otherwise, you've got to exclude the press and public now. So it's only the minutes up to the exempt matters. So first of all, I just ask the committee, are they a true and correct record before moving on to matters arising? I'll give you about 1 minute.
I move they be recorded as an accurate minute, Chairman.
Okay. Could I have a? I'll
Yeah,
second that,
second.
Tony.
Steve?
Yeah.
Hello, Steve?
Hello.
Sorry, it's Sue. Just to say on page 10, under objective 2, it says the time and task panel hasn't met. I just feel that it sort of suggests that it's by choice that it hasn't met for the apprenticeships.
Can I just come in there? Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I have actually been liaising with the officers about getting that panel started. So we're in the process of setting up the first meeting, which will be to look at the panel's terms of reference. So work is underway to get that panel started. Thank you.
Okay, just in terms of the minute, which I think Sue's raising, so the minute could just, I'm actually just trying to find, because I've not got page numbers on mine, so I'm actually trying to find it. But perhaps the minute could just say the time and task panels is being is in progress to be organised, something like that. Is that what you're saying, Sue?
Yeah, it just reads as if for some reason we've just negated our obligation to even have one, but that's not the case. We've been waiting for the other time and task panel to finish, and now we're in the process of getting this one together. So
okay, so you're happy with the
just
minutes
want some clarity, really. Sorry.
Or you're happy for the minutes to be left as it is, or is it's not a matter arising now, is it?
So I'm struggling because I can't see it at the same time as talking.
No, I understand the point. It says the time and task panel to look at this issue had been convened but had not yet met. What we could just add something in there to say, like the point you're making is it's not for that you haven't been bothered to meet, it's because other things have got in the way. So we can clarify that and just add a few words just to say that yeah, I mean, there's various reasons why it hasn't met, because we've had obviously the other panel going on, which has now completed its work. We also had COVID, which has impacted. So we are now ready to start that one moving. So we can just add a few words in there just to make the point, as you say, that it's not because you haven't wanted to meet, it's because circumstances haven't permitted.
Yeah, lovely, thank you.
Okay, so that clarifies that minute amended. Anyone else for a second moving their correct record? No, gone. Thank you. Matters arising. Are there any matters arising, committee?
Mr. Nurden.
Oh, Councillor Nurden.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 145. Just a couple of points. To question the role, purpose and function of the Joint Scrutiny Committee, which has met once in the last 3.5 years. Regarding this particular report, the typos that I was trying to emphasize were about how the report comes across to our residents. If I was a South Norfolk resident reading the plan, I would see that it is all about South Norfolk and how great that council has performed. There is little, if any, praise for Broadland. There was a reference to the Help Hub, which is Broadland also has a Help Hub. So the typos that I was referring to are the lack of focus on what our council, Broadland Council, has done. And I was focusing on the content, which in my opinion should have been more balanced between the two councils. So that's what the minute says, the committee's time, and ensure that their focus is on the content. So that is what I was trying to reflect in my comments.
Okay, thank you, Grant. And I understand your point. Any other matters arising? No. So again,
Yes, please.
who's that?
Councillor Beadle.
Stuart, far away, Stuart.
Just bear in mind we are still in open session, so if it's about the exempt item, we might need to
Yeah.
wait until this is later on the agenda under matters arising.
I appreciate this is an open session, and I want to raise the facts which are in the open session, both on the matters arising, which refer to the consequence of the cabinet meeting, and on the open session, it says quite clearly on page 13 that the recommendation to cabinet is option 4, and I'm sure the everybody will be aware that that was all but unanimous of the overview and scrutiny committee, and yet the cabinet on page 13 of their minutes says that they agreed option 1, and I think the majority of the ONS committee will be very sad that the advice by the ONS committee was not taken up, Chair. Thank you.
And on that, Stuart, it does kind of flowed into the exempt minutes. Does it? I think it does. It, Sarah, I think it does.
It does. Yeah, on page 343.
Yeah. So what I'll do, I'm going to pick that matter. I'll pick that back up when we get into the exempt minutes, Stuart, because there's nothing more can say about that at this moment in time. But yeah, I'll feed back on that in terms of the cabinet under the exempt minutes when we get to it. Okay, thank you. Any other matters arising? I'm going to close this down now. Gone. Okay, doke. So we'll move on to chairman's announcements. And there is something I want to say actually around a member of staff. I'm not sure, Sarah, I'm not saying this to embarrass you in any way. I'm not absolutely sure that whether you're here for another ONS meeting or not, but I'm aware that you are leaving, and I'd just like to say that I, for one, and I believe most members are sorry to hear that. Length of service that you've put in, the dedication you've put in has been second to none. And you know, it's Broadland's loss that you are leaving, and thanks again, Sarah, for everything you've done. Now I'd like to move that as a vote of thanks as well and receive a second for that for minuting as well, please.
Seconded, and please do.
Thank you. And we'll recall that in the minutes, please, James, as well.
Yes, will do.
Okie dokie. Public speaking, James, do we have
There's
any?
no public speaking. No.
Thank you, James. So item 7, cabinet reports. We'll move on to item 10, COVID-19 response Norfolk wide fighting fund. That's page 21, and I believe is that you, Rodney, presenting on this?
It is indeed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, and welcome, Rodney. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
And fire away, please.
Right, so this is a short report that's quite at last minute. We put the report forward, but very much there's a proposal across Norfolk to set up a Norfolk-wide fighting fund in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The idea being by working together, we can lever in additional funds to help support the effort. And very much this council has been asked to contribute £150,000 towards this fund. Very much we have had additional funding from government as set out in section 2, which will actually cover this contribution. So very much we'll be asking Cabinet to agree a contribution of £150,000 to the fighting fund, and obviously we're interested to hear the views of ONS. I think that's all I need to say on the matter.
Okie dokie, thank you, Rodney. So opening up for questions, observations.
Councillor Nairden.
Sorry, Councillor who? Grant.
Nairden. Yes.
Yes. Fire away, Grant, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's just a comment, really, but a concern. We are being asked to contribute to a collective fund, and we don't know who or which organisation or authority is going to decide where the money is to be spent, what it is going to be spent on, or how it will be spent, and who's going to manage that fund. So I think it's a bit bizarre. If we can have a little bit more clarity on that from Mr. Fincham.
Yeah, Rodney, could you just speak a little bit more on that, please?
If I can come back on that, obviously I think we're still working up the precise details of what the Norfolk-wide Fighting Fund will be used for. But to start with, I believe we're looking at some tourism grants. So we're talking about the reopening fund, which we think we're going to be getting £30,000 for Broadland back from, and the adaptations fund again for tourism, again, which this council should be receiving £69,000. But this is very much why this recommendation has also been phrased to actually, we're not agreeing to this money at the moment. It's still a agreement to delegate that final decision in consultation with the leader, so we can get assurance that the leader is happy that actually all the funds will be distributed appropriately before actually we contribute this money. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, how do you feel, Grant? Are you happy with that?
Yeah, it's just a concern, really, that we're giving money to somebody else to decide how the money is going to be spent, and you know, I think we need to be comfortable that it's going to benefit, that we're going to, as Broadland district, we're going to benefit to the tune of about 150,000 from that fund. Otherwise, it's just giving it to I don't know.
If I can come back as well, there is obviously precedent for doing this as well, because for instance, we contribute to the business rates pool, and again, we've worked together with Norwich on the Greater Norwich Plan. So actually we do have a long history of working together with the authorities in Norfolk, and very much the idea would be this would be a way to share the funds where they're most needed. But actually we would expect that Broadland would again receive a proportionate response back from this fund, and indeed we should get back more for our district than £150,000, because of ability to leverage funds, for instance from the LEP, where there's an indication that the LEP will contribute £1 million towards this fund as well. So actually by putting it together we should be getting more back than our initial contribution.
Thank you, Rodney. And when this fund, I know it's on the recommendation that consultation from the leader to allocate, and obviously, Rodney, I think you'd probably confirm, not leading you here, but that when that fund is set up, we'll get feedback, obviously, about how it's how it's been used, and also what benefit it's been back to the council at some point in the future in terms of an update, Rodney, I guess.
That would seem a sensible proposal, yes. So yes, we do need to keep an eye on how this money's been spent.
Yeah, okie dokie. And benefits we've received as a council as well. Thank you, Rodney. Is there, if there's nobody else,
Nigel Brennan has a question,
Nigel?
and Councillor Catchpole.
Thank you. And I will keep prompting in that way. It just speeds up by a few seconds. So, sorry, Nigel first.
Sorry, my arm was getting tired. No, I share Councillor Nurden's concern. I mean, £150,000 is a not insubstantial amount of money, and as Grant is saying, that we're being asked to commit to that without any idea where the money is going to go. And I appreciate what Rodney said, but we could put this 150 in. There's no actual guarantee at the moment that we get it back. But if we're going to put it in and get it back, why don't we just spend 150 ourselves on businesses within our particular district?
Okie dokie. I'm just going to let Sue in next to see if it's on the same vein or if it's something else.
Yes, Steve.
Sorry,
yes, Chair. It's really who came up with the concept, and what did they have in mind that they might need to spend that money on? I mean, why has it been considered that there is a need for a fighting fund? Somebody must know that answer, otherwise there wouldn't have been the original request, surely. And it would be useful to know now before we pass a recommendation.
Okay, so probably Rodney, if you come back again now, if you come back now in terms of Nigel and Sue's point, that'd be helpful, I think.
As there was a paper that went to the leaders on this, but as I'm sure you appreciate, the COVID-19 pandemic, with dealing with this very quickly and making quick decisions. But the idea very much was it's coming from the original business rates pool. There's money available in the business rates pool to be used for certain purposes. So actually there's £3.7 million in the business rates pool. And so the leader said, actually, can we help use this money or divert this money to deal with the COVID-19 response? So that's very much the initial money has come from, that £3.7 million. And the idea was then, well, actually, let's try and supplement this by having a contribution from Norfolk County Council and the district councils in order to try and create a bigger pot to make a bigger difference to the response. But as I do understand where members are coming from. Actually, it would have been nice to have a bit more detail on the exact makeup of how this money is going to be spent. I think that's still a work in progress.
Okie dokie.
Can I come back, Chair?
Absolutely, Nigel.
Do we know how much is being contributed by other councils around Norfolk besides Norfolk County Council, which we know about?
So each district is being asked to contribute £150,000.
And that totals then, Rodney, if I'm not mistaken from the paperwork, £1 million?
£1 million, yes, £1,050,000.
Yeah, it's on page 21, Nigel.
Yeah, I'm now just double check it. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks, Chair, and thank you, Rodney.
Okie dokie. Is there anybody else?
Councillor Adams has put a comment in chat. He's happy to move.
Okie
Yeah.
dokie. So
I'm happy
Councillor-
to move the recommendation, Chairman.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that?
Councillor Kelly.
Councillor Kelly, there's been
Yeah,
moved and
Happy
seconded.
to second it, please.
Okay, so that's the recommendation on page 22, and I'll just read it out, be clear, that Cabinet, the authority be delegated to the Assistant Director of Finance in consultation with the leader to allocate £150,000 to Norfolk Wide Fighting Fund. Do we, so is that agreed?
Is it not possible?
Whoa, hold on.
Sorry, was it not possible to
whoa,
have put forward an amendment that responds to the concerns of Councillor Nigel and
Karen,
we had three.
Karen, under the rules of engagement here, you are
Yeah.
perfectly entitled to put forward an amendment. If it's seconded, I'm obliged to put that amendment first. There is then a vote on the amendment. If the amendment is carried, then that moves forward in terms of the substantive vote. If the amendment falls, we move simply to the vote then in relation to the proposition which has already been duly moved and seconded. God, I've been saying that for about 40 years. What is your amendment you would like to put, Karen?
Well, in light of the concerns raised, could we add that the allocate 150,000 to the Norfolk Wide Fighting Fund on condition that greater clarity is obtained on the budget allocation of the £7.7 million, which is the overall budget. Yes, or the.
So that would be clarity before it goes ahead. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So it's conditionality. So you put in a conditionality that as long as there's clarity on what the budget allocation is, and that's agreed, that it's
okay, Karen. What I'll do, I'll see if there's a seconder to your amendment. Is there a seconder to Councillor Lawrence's amendment?
Councillor Catchpole.
Yes.
Councillor Catchpole, have you seconded that?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Right, so I'm not going to move on at pace because we've got such a lot on the agenda. So the amendment is that in line with the recommendation, that the council seeks clarification on what the fund's going to be used for before the fund is allocated. Is that okay, James?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just very quickly, Chairman, say that I'm against the motion. I think Rodney has really fully covered the
You mean amendment?
aspects. So I'm against the amendment,
Right,
Chairman. Yes, thank you.
okay, motion then. I'm on the ball this morning, Tony. Okie dokie. Right.
Has already been a long morning.
Okie doke. So I'm going to move straight to the vote on that now. We've had clarification on the wording. James just picked that up. All those in favour of the amendment?
Do you want me to take a recorded vote on this?
Yeah, I think probably do.
Probably easiest, isn't it?
Yeah.
Councillor Adams, are you for or against?
Against.
Councillor Beadle?
Abstain.
Councillor Brennan?
For.
Councillor Bullman?
Against.
Against. Councillor Catchpole?
For.
Councillor Hartley?
For.
Councillor Kelly?
Against.
Councillor King?
Against.
Councillor Lawrence?
For.
Councillor Nurden?
For.
Councillor Prutton?
Against.
Councillor Riley?
I'll abstain, Chair. Sorry, Chair, I'm talking to myself here. I'll have changed abstain, James.
Oh,
And Councillor Shaw?
Abstain.
right.
Right.
Just got a tie.
One.
Oh, we've got a tie.
I believe you got a tie.
Whoa, that's the first
Four.
time on ONS we've had a tie. Can we just double check that? We're better.
That's 5. I make it 5-4. 5. And 2 abstentions.
3.
3 abstentions.
Yep.
5 for, 5 against.
5 against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's down to me to break this deadlock then. We can't have a non-decision, as we say. I abstained, so which way do I go? I'm not about to toss a coin, so I'll go in favour of 4.
Right. So that's 6-5 and 3 abstentions. So that's carried.
That's the first time I've ever known us to have that's happened.
It's the first time for everything, Chairman.
There is. But I think we dealt with that in quite a professional way. Going back to Sarah and James now, we now have the recommendation. So the recommendation would now be put to the vote. It's been moved and seconded with the amendment attached, because that's been agreed. Correct? Yeah. Everybody agree, governance? Wonderful. Okay. So now all those in favour of the said proposition by Tony Adams and seconded for the recommendation on page 22, would you all please indicate whether you're in favour of that?
As amended, Chairman.
As amended, yeah. Sorry, yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah. Totally.
You all happy with that?
Yeah.
That looks pretty unanimous.
Okay. The easiest way, just to make sure, don't anybody object? No, I mean, no. No abstention. No. So we'll call that unanimous, James. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. Thank you very, very much. I'm just giving you a little time reminder here because there's a lot on the agenda. It's 10:30 a.m. So just moving on now to the excuse me, the next item, which is review of mandatory licensing licensing houses in multiple occupancy, the fees. That's on page 23. And is Kevin presenting to this today, James or Sarah?
I believe Kevin is, yes.
Okie dokie. Right. If you'd like to amplify, please, Kevin, and report, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you. It's page 23, committee.
Okay, Chair, thank you for that. Good morning to you, councillors. This is a report to make sure that our HMO licensing fees reflect what was actually carried out. A brief bit of background, which is in Article 2 of the report. Previously, HMOs licenses that required licenses were those properties with 5 or more people consisting of more than one family unit over 3 or more stories. So in 2018, an order was issued by the government removing the 3-story requirement. So basically, with a couple of caveats, all of those properties that have 5 people in them and consisting of 2 or more families require a license. They also put some additional measures in there, such as room size restrictions and what can be used for a bedroom and what can be used for kitchen, etc. So there was some room size restrictions, some additional work. So what we've actually done is actually repriced the whole process. I'll give you a bit of history, because there is a difference between the old price and the new price. The old price was actually carried out by myself some years ago under the leadership, the head of service that was Richard Block, who just come from Westminster, and the case study regarding costings and that councils are only allowed to charge for their actual works very much in the mind at the moment. So we had a little bit risk averse when we did that and made sure there was nothing that we could actually be scrutinised as not as charged for incorrectly. We've really looked at everything we do on HMO licenses. We've been extremely thorough. You'll see matrices in Appendix A and Appendix B that detail the calculation processes that we've actually used to actually come up with the figures that we've actually used, and taking into account the additional measures that we have to do, we've come up with a recommendation of £825. However, in light of the health and wellbeing panels who rejected this, we've actually put an additional amount of for the decision process of £700 or other amount as part of the recommendations. So we could do that if you so wish, but what we've actually detailed is the actual process and how we've actually come out to that £825 figure as reflecting the actual work we do now, which is more comprehensive than it used to be. We've taken away the actual additional person per room. So although it was less, for each person above the 5 people that occupy a room was charged an additional £28. That is now gone. So it's a set fee, and we feel we have an accountable process that if we were scrutinised would be absolutely fine in any audit. So with that, any questions from anybody?
Just before questions, if I could just clarify something, Kevin, and great to see you again, Kevin. And I do remember this with Richard Block before. I go back that far. Yeah, it's just on the wellbeing panel, because what I believe you're saying here in terms of recommendation, there's been an alternative being put forward as a possibility for ONS here in Cabinet due to the discussion that happened at wellbeing. And the minutes were not attached to the Cabinet agenda for wellbeing. I think that's probably just an oversight on this occasion. But in terms of looking at the minutes, I can see they're quite lengthy. I think it's 4 pages, and a lot of discussion went on. At the end of that, there was a vote for the recommendation, which is the first part of the recommendation, not the possible alternative, and that was not supported. So I'm just trying to confirm here and be absolutely clear. The point that you've made in terms of the alternative and possibly the £700, the £25 reference you made there as well. Is it correct that that was not actually discussed and agreed at Wellbeing at that point? This happened subsequent because of the debate at Wellbeing. Would that be correct, Kevin?
Absolutely. The actual revised fee with all the matrix was discussed in detail at the Wellbeing panel, and after long discussion and explanations, it was voted down 5 to 4. And as such, that there was no alternative. It was just voted down. So what we want to do is get a new pricing structure agreed, so we can actually move forward. So we don't have to keep coming back. So in consideration of that, we put an additional recommendation in, but basically based around £700. But even that is flexible upon any recommendations that councillors come up with. The £825 renewal fee is the fee we've actually priced for, and we can demonstrate. We've changed the variation fee, and the renewal fee is a new renewal procedure that we've got. So those changes are all calculated, and we feel if we were audited on those, we'd be able to demonstrate value for that. But on light of the Wellbeing panel, it was like an open book. We just needed to provide a facility for that question.
Okie dokie. Well, thanks very much, Kevin. And it was just an important bit of scrutiny questioning there, because one could take it that, right, well, the alternative was agreed at the Wellbeing. We've clarified it wasn't, but in the light of the opposition to the main recommendation, you've adjusted this and adjusted it around this 700 figure. So now the committee is fully aware of all of that in terms of scrutiny. I'll move on. So I'll open it up now for questions.
You have what, Councillor Nurdin and then Councillor Kelly.
Right, thank you. So Councillor Nurdin and then, sorry, did you say Kelly?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very much in favour of the first recommendation, but I have a question, and that is related to 4.1, paragraph 4.1. And it says there that the new charges are calculated at the 1st of April 2020 and are based on the 2020-21 salary bandings. If that is correct, okay, for a 5-year license and is based on that, the 2021 salary bandings, then surely the license fee should be reviewed every year as the salary bandings change each year. So is that what is going to happen? Because you have quite a leap from the 500 odd pounds for the license to an £825 license fee, and if you had it every year that you had a review or something built in that you could amend it because of the salary bandings changing, because it's the same officers that are going to be doing the same work on those salary bandings, then surely it should be amended each year.
Would you like to come back on that, Kevin, first before I let anybody else in?
That's quite an easy one, because it is actually detailed in the council's fees and charges, and it's adjusted each year for inflation, as is our caravan site license fees, etc. So that's actually in fees and charges, and so that will be adjusted for inflation each year.
Okie dokie. I think, Grant, that answers your question. Would that be correct? Grant.
Sorry, it was just there was a message coming in on my iPad, so I couldn't unmute myself. But yes, I'm very happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in is Kenny, if you'd like.
Good morning, Kevin. I'm just looking through here. Could you tell us the figure for how many applications for licenses, say, we've had in the last 2 years, and give an indication, has this increased, decreased? In the light of COVID is coming up, advancing, do we anticipate a lot more licenses or less? Could you elucidate, please?
Off the top of my head, I would say that in the last 3 years, we probably had 3, 4 license applications come in. We've had one licensable property drop out. It's gone back to a single family use after sale. So I would say we'd have between 3 or 4. So there's not a great number. I don't think the COVID situation has increased the number of HMOs on the district. Do I think there's HMOs out there that we haven't got on our books that are licensable? Quite possibly. But based on an exercise we did a few years ago with the BRE, it's not a large number of licensable HMOs in Broadland. The way the housing stock goes, it's very much an individual family based urban home settlement. It's not like Norwich, where you've got student accommodation with multiple HMOs, etc. So yes, I think there are additional ones that we would very much like to find. I don't think there's a significant number.
In the light of this, especially with COVID and coming on, and the amount of numbers we've got, I think we should go back to what the wellbeing panel said, was 700. We should be helping our residents in all aspects of housing, etc. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't accept the recommendation. I think that we should take on board what wellbeing said in 700, because the fact of it's only one application and we can bear this without any monetary obligations, really. So I'll leave it.
Thank you, Ken. I'm just going to clarify for you though, Ken, that I did spend a bit of time on trying to help everybody on this. The wellbeing panel, and we now know the vote 5-4 voted against the recommendation. However, the wellbeing panel did not vote for 700 because at that point in time they did not know about it. What's happened is, and Kevin's clarified this just now, subsequent to the wellbeing panel, there's been reflection by the officers in terms of the wellbeing panel not supporting the recommendation. They've come back with this alternative, which is £700, because of the opposition from the wellbeing panel. But the wellbeing panel just factually didn't actually vote for 700, but it's in that direction, if you see what I mean. So that's just absolute clarity there, because you know it's a live meeting, and say they voted for something that they didn't, really it would be wrong of me just to walk past when I know that's not what happened, and Kevin's just confirmed that. So just letting I believe who else is due in now?
Councillor Natasha Hartley has had her hand up for a while,
Great.
and then Sue Catchpole.
Brilliant. I'm glad you're coming in, Natasha. I know Sue wants to come in as well, but I'm just prompting Sue Pruton as well, just in case you do. If you don't want to come in, fine, soon. But I understand you're both on the wellbeing, so you might wish to comment. So yes, Natasha, fire away, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was just going to comment as someone who was at the panel, and I actually voted against it. It wasn't so much about the figures. It was the way it was sold to us at Wellbeing is quite different to how it's being proposed here. It was much more labelled as, because it's the same team doing the work for both Broadland and South Norfolk, we legally have to have the same fee for both councils. So that meant one or the other has to go up or down to level up. And for me, it was a matter of principle that what's changed. I understand when you dig a bit deeper that what's being included and the process is different now, but I didn't feel able to vote for something that saw a big rise purely so we could then tie in with South Norfolk. So I just wanted to clarify, there wasn't, as you said, there wasn't this 700 figure offered then. It was just, we have to legally charge the same amount as South Norfolk, as it's, you know, 2 councils, 1 team. And I didn't think it was right as a matter of principle to just suddenly up our prices like that. And that's why I voted against it. So I'm just wanting to clarify the wellbeing position at the time. I don't think anybody was particularly disputing the figures at all. It was just for those who voted against, it was that matter of principle. You know, why do we suddenly have to up it? You know, how can we justify that? That's it.
Thank you, Natasha. And that is helpful, because when I read the minutes, that was the feeling I was getting. There was some term in there around this absolutely has to happen because we need to operate one price across both councils, which of course we don't, and I found a bit bizarre when I read it. So I perfectly understand the point you're making, Natasha. So I'm just going to ask Sue, before Sue Catchpole, you may not wish to say anything, Sue Pruitt, but I think
I've got my hand up.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. But I thought it was probably the right thing to do to ask if you did.
All I was going to say at that meeting, when the details were discussed, I said, can we not have a two-tier price system, one for South Norfolk, one for Broadland? But the officers made it perfectly clear that it had got to be a common fee, and the phase was, I've got to be able to justify it if I get called to court. So we were sort of told that the officers were adamant that it had got to be a single price for the two councils.
Thank you, Sue.
I think Debbie Lorimer wants to come in before we move to more questions.
Yeah, because I think on this point we just need to try to, clarify, scrutinise this point before we could effectively move on in terms of scrutiny. So hopefully Debbie could help here. So please, Debbie, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just try and explain? Obviously, the same officers are doing the same work for both councils. That's why it works out to be the same for both councils. As a council, we can charge what it costs us to perform this service, but no more. And that's what we all signed up to as part of our commercialisation strategy, which was where it's possible, we will charge the cost of delivering a service where there are fees and charges. However, obviously you can make an exception and charge lower than that, but that is the reason why the officers are saying it would cost the same for both councils, because it's the same people doing the same amount of work, carrying out the same process, and obviously you can see it's all detailed down to the amount of time it costs, multiplied by the salary cost to achieve that final cost down at the bottom. So legally, yes, we don't have to charge the same. You can set two different fees, but what we're giving you here is the cost of carrying out that service, and that is therefore why we're proposing that's what you charge. Hope that clarifies that, Chair, for you.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. And again, Sue, I've got you on hold here, Sue Catchpole. Just again, clarification on here. I totally, and I remember going back, Richard Block, along the changes through on this. Again, reading the minute, again, trying to pick up. So we should do this overview scrutiny. What did they say? What was going on there at a panel meeting? There is an obligation on us not to make profit. We can't do that. It's clearly come down from government, and I don't believe that most councils want to do that anyway. I'm also picking up from the minute as well that there seemed to be a point as well around this being passed on by landlords to tenants, and that was a concern as well. Picking up again on Kevin's point. Again, this is just on factual stuff. We know that in terms of affordability, we actually need more HMOs because of single people. Some of them have been homeless unemployment benefit, lost my term then. So therefore, if you look at rents, social rents for a flat or a house, there's still a problem. So you find across London and in Norwich a growth of HMOs to support that. And in Broadland, we're actually short. So there are people migrating from Broadland into Norwich as a result of that. So, this could actually expand in the future. There's certainly a need for it. And I know that Ken would agree with that. So we're talking about people, not everybody, where there is an issue in terms of passing on fees. And I read that clearly through the wellbeing report as a concern as well. One thing we don't have to do, Debbie, and you've referred to it as well, we don't actually need to charge the same. If this council believed it was in its interest to charge less because we don't want to pass on fees, we can. It's simply a technical job for the officer to do on two different fees. We wouldn't be breaking the law in any way, shape or form, because it'd be less than what we could charge because we're not making profit. So just to clarify that as well, we could still have two different fees, and I understand the points being made. And I think so I've been holding you up, Sue Catchpole, on that, but we do get there as a scrutiny where we just have to clarify the points for the officers. So we've we've done that, I think. So moving on to you, Sue Catchpole now.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose mine's a much more general point. Is it defined as more than 5 people with 2 or more families living under the same roof? I'm thinking back to my days as a single parent when I was trying to work and had a live-in au pair. Would that be the kind of situation where this fee was expected? Because I'm just baffled by the definition of HMO and would like some clarity on that, please.
Kevin.
Yeah, it's 5 or more, not more than 5. So, and it's those not constituting a single household. I would not expect a family with an au pair living in there not to be considered a single household. So, I wouldn't expect it to affect them. It's designed at separate family units. It's the law of common circumstances is the bed sit with either facilities or not with facilities, but a family home with an au pair would have to have 5 people for a start and then the au pair, but I would not consider that anything less than a single family unit with an au pair.
Okie dokie.
I will go back to what Debbie said, is that the clarity regarding the 2 services and the pricing is the fact that an officer from the team will do exactly the same. All the paperwork is aligned now. So the service from South Norfolk will be exactly the same as it is in Broadland. And that is why the prices came together as part of a reassessment and take into account the changes in the legislation, the required examination of room size, etc. So I just want to just touch on there what Debbie said.
And just one final point from me on this in terms of clarification. This is for everybody, you see, because they're not reading necessarily what I'm reading. But what we currently charge is what, Kevin? How much?
It's 593 with an additional £28 per person above the 5. So if you had 7, it would be 593 plus 56.
Okay, so we're talking about a difference of 100. What was that?
£232. Is that right?
Is that right, Kevin?
Yeah, sounds right to me. Yeah, 232 for a 5-person.
Right. So at the moment we are getting some costs covered on the 593, but not as much as your total calculation that it really does cost. Okay.
No.
Right. Who else have I got now?
Councillor Shaw did have his hand raised, but I'm not sure if he has a question. Councillor Shaw.
Okay, Nigel. And then have I got Dave King after that? Linda.
Have you got a question? Could you raise your hand, Councillor King, if you have, or shake your head if you haven't?
Look, I've got a question.
Yeah, so Councillor Shaw was first, then King.
Okay, thank you. Right, so Nigel and then Dave, and then I think Grant after that. Oh no, Grant's fine. Right, okay.
Yeah, thanks. I'm on the wellbeing panel too, and it wasn't just what was said before about it. I disagreed with the actual cost as well. It was far too much of an increase for the people who are actually running these places. I'd agree with Ken Kelly that 700 is plenty, quite honestly.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Nigel. That's helpful, especially as you was on the wellbeing as well. And then Dave King.
Yeah, so just to clarify through the chair, did you say you do 3 of these a year? Is it 3 of those in total?
No, the license is 5 years. So the license is a 5-year license, and then it has a renewal process.
And how many do you do physically? How many do you do?
There isn't a specific number, councillor.
How many have you done in the last 5 years?
in the last 5 years, we've probably done most of these in the last 5 years. Yes, we have. All bar one, they've done in the last 5 years, and 13 have been done. None of them have been
How
renewed.
many in total have you done in the last 5 years? How many HMO requests like this have you done?
14.
14 in 5 years. So what are we actually talking? 14 times 250? 14 times 250, which is the increase. We're only talking £3,500 over 5 years, £700 a year. How much work has actually gone into producing this report? It just strikes me as is this value for money? So I will. Is there going to be a proposal from somebody about an amount for an amendment?
Well, we'll come on to that. So you're right. There's actually the recommendation, and then there's also an alternative which could be picked up in that recommendation. It's the second part of the recommendation, which is for I'm just going to turn to it for accuracy, which is
£700, Chairman. Subsidised fee of £700.
Yeah, £700.
If you
However, there
that,
might be
I'll
another
second
amendment.
it.
Kenny. That's right, £700. There might be another amendment. Who knows? To keep it exactly as it is. So we're yet to get there. But I'm picking up, Dave, that you're obviously in favour of an amendment here. When we get there, is that correct?
Well, yes, I am. I'm just curious about how much work has actually gone into this report for not very much money. I'm also looking at the hourly rate of the members that are actually in this committee, and I'm pretty sure that we're coming very close to one of those application increases anyway. So yes, so I would like to move forward if we could as quickly as possible on this, because I've got another meeting I need to be in by 1:15, so I've only got 2 hours before I need to leave.
And Councillor Brennan has raised his hand, so I'm not sure whether that's a question or you might just want to clarify that.
Yes, Nigel, far away.
Yeah, I'm just going back to this alternative and number 2. I'm just concerned about the fact that it says such as £700, which is a little bit woolly.
Yeah.
Are we going to actually get that changed to exactly 700, possibly? Because such as 700 could be 680, 720.
You're right, and this is the problem.
It's too woolly. Too woolly to have it the way it's in the cabinet paper anyway, if you put it that way.
And you're right, and this is because what Kevin is saying is, since the wellbeing panel, they've come up with another figure, which is an arbitrary figure. It's out there in the air. It could be anything. It could be from today we're saying 650. It could be 7. How do you arrive at this? It's less than what it costs. And I think I'm warming towards an amendment myself of keeping it as it is, 595 and 593, because you've got something to make off of what it comes off at the moment. How do you arrive at what figure then? So I think you're right, Nigel, about it being woolly. Anyone else?
Don't see anyone. No one else has raised their hand.
Okie dokie. Okay, right. So moving to the recommendation, then I would like to put forward an amendment, and this is from picking up from what various committee members have said, the panel, etc. I know Kevin's saying a figure of 700, but I'd like to put forward an amendment that it's retained at the current figure of the 593, and have that as the alternative going forward to cabinet, along with that recommendation. And I'd seek a secondary on that.
Second that, Chairman.
Thank you, Ken. Okie dokie. So if I put that to the votes, and should we do a roll call on this, James?
Can you just
Excuse me,
repeat,
Chair.
Steve?
Can you clarify? Are we now having 3 votes? Are we having 8.1, 8.2, and then this third one, which is the status quo?
No.
No, because you've got two here. You've got the second one, which is 700, which is an arbitrary figure.
Yeah.
So now we're making the second one the figure.
The status quo.
Status quo 5.
Okay, that's okay then.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Sorry for that. So with that clarification, can we have a roll call on that, please, James?
Certainly. Councillor Adams?
For.
Councillor Beadle?
For.
Councillor Brennan?
4.
Councillor Bullman,
4.
Councillor Catchpole, Councillor Catchpole,
Sorry, I was trying to mute. We're voting on the amendment, right?
yes.
Yes. 4.
Councillor Harpley,
4.
Councillor Kelly,
4.
Councillor King,
4.
Councillor Lawrence,
4.
Councillor Nurden,
Against.
Councillor Prutton,
4.
Councillor Riley,
4.
Councillor Shaw.
4.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for and 1 against. So that's carried.
Thank you, James. And thank you very much, Kevin. And obviously for re-looking at that again after the wellbeing panel. Great to see you again. I will swiftly move on now.
Excuse me, Chair. I do apologise. I lost my signal there, so I lost the result on my signal. But I'm back now, so I wouldn't be.
We've supported that second proposition, for, but not for the figure of 700. We've supported a figure of the status quo, which is what you currently charge.
Okay. Thank you. I apologise.
I'm not happy with that, Kevin, but that's where we are.
That's fine. I do apologise for losing my signal.
No problem, Kevin. And great to see you again, mate. You take care.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, a formal session. I should have said that, shouldn't I? Great to see you again, Kevin. Take care.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Moving on swiftly to the next item. Agenda item 12, update to local development scheme. Paul Harris, are you here?
No, Chair, it's going to be me, which is Helen Mellors.
Oh, hello, Helen.
Hello, Steve.
I'm just going to ask the Vice Chair to take over for 2 minutes. We will be having a comfort break pretty soon, but I need that now. So I'm just going to ask. I'm just going to ask Tony if you could take over, Tony, and I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Shall we just have a comfort break now?
Well, there's a reason for this, Dave, and that's this. We're going to have exclusion of the press and public when we're nearly there, and that would be exactly the right time to take comfort break, because then the technical Linda then can make sure that everybody actually is off while we come back on, and it'd be the perfect way to break that when we go into exclusion. We're nearly there, but I've just got an urgent, so Tony, would you just take over, please? And
yeah,
fire away.
I'm ready, yeah, Chairman. Thank you.
Back in a moment.
Sorry about that, Helen.
That's okay. Hopefully,
so if you'd like to start and keep it as brief as possible, because we have a very full agenda.
I will. This is quite a straightforward paper for you. To recap, we have a duty under the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act to produce a local development scheme, and that is a timetable to outline the council's programme for the production of the new local plan documents. In this case, we're referring to the Greater Norwich Local Plan. So the timetable has already gone through the Greater Norwich Development Partnership, where we obviously have Lana, Councillor Hemsel, Councillor Vincent, who chairs it, and Councillor Lawn on that meeting. But then we have to agree this through our cabinets and council on the timetable. So the last timetable was in May. And if I take you to page 46 of the Cabinet report, we have the new outline timetable for your consideration. And the key changes are that we are proposing an additional what's called a Reg 18 consultation. And that in particular is to look at, focused on looking at some of the policies within the plan, but also whether or not we should be allocating the Norwich Western Link. So on the overall timetable, it does mean that where we were hoping to go out on consultation on the Reg 19 process, that was planned to be January-March 21. That is now delayed to August-September 21, with the final adoption being delayed of that local plan from August-September 2022 to November-December 22. So this paper is just agreeing that timetable, which we have a statutory duty to do under that Act. I have nothing more to say, Chair.
Thank you very much, Alan, for a very concise report. Right, anybody, any questions that they wish to ask Alan? Can't see any hands up on my screen at all.
I can't.
Sorry?
No, I can't see any either. Could I just ask Councillor Shaw to lower his papers, please? Because they're in the screen. Can you lower them? Thank you very much.
Lower. Right, I will
I can't see them now.
I'll happily move the officer's recommendation 8.1 on page 39. So show of hands, all those in favour, please.
A seconder?
Oh yeah, seconder.
Yep.
I'll second that.
Right, so right, okay. So I think seconded, and I think Sarah carried unanimously.
It is, yes.
Oh, James. Right. So the next item on the agenda, I believe, is on page 54.
We're moving to exclusion of the public now for the next part, and that's when we're going to take a
well, this
break.
one, if I'm correct, is on white paper. So
The chair has agreed that all the this item needs to be considered under the line. So this is where we're at the point, Chairman, to that now move exemption and have a break.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah.
So I'd need to move this. So I'll do the customary reading out. So I move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining item of business, because otherwise information which would be exempt information by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006, would be disclosed to them. No matter how I read it, I can never make it sound interesting. So I've so moved.
Thank you. That will just take me a while to stop the live stream. So if everyone can be part, but we are moving to a break now and then we'll convene.
I'll just